Hey guys, Lance Martin with the Martin Group, Cobalt Group, brokered by EXP. That's really difficult for me to get all those words out because for so long it's been Lance Martin with Coldwell Banker Town and Country. So Mike Jesse, right?
Yes.
I always make sure I get the last name right. So Mike, Jesse, and I are this is our inaugural version or kickoff of what could be the #1 podcast in the country. So watch out, Joe Rogan. We are coming for you. So at any rate, let me set the stage here on what we're going to do. So Mike and I, where did we meet? Charleston? About a month ago?
Yeah, at our EXP.
At the EXP Fast Forward, shindig. Yep. And we immediately connected, which is interesting because we talked for a little bit before I think we even realized that we were basically kind of like stepbrothers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Separated at birth. So basically we decided a month or so ago we're going to get together. So the premise is basically this, or at least the initial episode of our show was initially this. So 23 years, broker owner, Coldwell Banker Town and Country. And Mike, you were how many years?
23 in the business, but about 8 years with RE/MAX, the Jesse Group with RE/MAX. We had 2 offices, one in Southern California, Dana Point, and one in the high desert. Wow. And then we merged later on with 3 other offices in Huntington Beach.
Got it. So you were 8 years plus.
8 years plus,
with
broker
what
owner.
We've affectionately referred to as a legacy brand, awesome brand,
right.
RE/MAX, awesome brand, Coldwell Banker. And you decided, was 2.5 years ago, you left and jumped in with EXP.
EXP.
Okay. How long before that did you decide that something was changing and you needed to get out?
Well, it just seemed like over the years, and then we've talked about it, is the model for the franchise is broken. The old legacy models, the brick and mortar, and RE/MAX had some rules about that, as they all do. And it just wasn't, as technology changed and became more in the cloud, became more sophisticated, RE/MAX being still a good company, great image, the balloon, everybody knows the balloon. Yep. They just didn't keep the technology rolling, and we were just hungry for more current technology and the cloud-based technology, basically, and that's what we wanted. So that started making us thinking about doing something different.
So you partially left because of the technology. Was it a broken model, or was it just like you just felt you were starving for more?
A little bit of both. That and the fact that the franchise operation for RE/MAX didn't have a lot of collaboration within all the offices. And so that was bothering me. But from what we heard about EXP, then once we finally came to EXP, that model works at all levels. I mean, it's very collaborative. The agents talk to each other. There's no fear of competition, it seems like. We really enjoyed that. Yeah. But the initial goal was the technology. It wasn't the money, it was the technology.
Well, that's interesting because, then maybe the acquisition. Is it an acquisition? Did Real acquire RE/MAX?
Yeah, you have to pay a franchise fee, and you acquire they give you a geographical place, you pick it out, you build it out.
Okay. But I'm talking about Real. When Real Brokerage acquired RE/MAX within the last, 90 days or whatever that was. Because they build that as Real as this massive, wonderful AI technology company, which I kind of...
Yeah, it's not going to work exactly like that from the people I've talked to at RE/MAX that I'm still friends with. They're going to keep both. They're going to keep the franchise operation, brick and mortar, and they're going to have this new one, and they're going to have a choice. I don't see how that's going to work. Right. But they're going to keep it, and they're going to...
Well, they're completely opposite models.
Yeah.
So... Interesting. Well, you and I did very little debrief, but I have a couple questions. Okay, so, and by the way, just to set the stage, if you've watched any of the stuff that I've done in the past, and we talked about this earlier, sometimes I will come out and the model's broken and the industry is broken, and that has nothing to do with the individual agents. If you are a killer agent doing business, now by the way, the market's tough. Let's all face the fact. But if you're an agent who has got a business plan and you're doing well, you're doing just fine.
Right.
You're doing just fine.
Right.
So whenever I kind of talk about, things are broken, it's so difficult, I'm talking about the broker-owner model. Sitting back as an owner of a legacy brand. Again, Coldwell Banker's an awesome company, awesome agents, nothing bad to say about them. But owning that brand, owning that for any of them, I just found to be no longer a good business model for me.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you a question because, you may have the numbers a little better than I, so I'm going to be a little bit off. Okay, RE/MAX per agent productivity, I believe, is the #1 per agent productivity in the country.
Yeah, they're at 16 per
Okay, which
agent
is
per year.
which again, in case some of our audience is not in the industry, if we've got just normal people out there, and closing 16 transactions in a year might not sound like a lot, but if you're an agent closing 16 or more transactions in a year, you're top 5%.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, so and it's my understanding with RE/MAX that they've held that per agent productivity, high watermark like 10, 15, 12 years running. Does that sound right?
They have. It's not that it's skewed because, like you said, RE/MAX is a good company, and we really liked RE/MAX. We were with them for 20 some years.
Yep.
That includes the international market.
Yep.
And the international market for RE/MAX, which is operated a little separately than RE/MAX LLC in the United States, they operate differently. But a lot of the numbers come from there. Their agent counts are up. Most of the agents are international because RE/MAX has been reduced in size domestically.
Yeah.
But
where
overall,
where I'm going with that though is you now have, what we just established: great company, great agents, top per agent productivity, but the mothership going broke, right? To the point where they got to come and get rescued by a company that nobody had heard of 5 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
So to me, that just reinforces what I've been saying all along. If you're at the top of the pyramid, whether you're the franchise itself or whether you're a broker owner like you and I have been, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And you get it. I think it's organizationally and functionally. If you're a small company, it's easier to pivot and go somewhere. RE/MAX had gotten so big. RE/MAX and Coldwell Banker were the number 1 and 2 in the world. It's hard for them to pivot, and they weren't able to implement technology as quickly as some of the other companies, like EXP. EXP started basically not from scratch, but they didn't have to unwind things to get the new technology on board, where RE/MAX had to unwind some things.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Unwinding this. It's we talk about legacy brands, but there's also that legacy technology.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Again, nothing bad to say about CB, but when I onboarded with Coldwell Banker 23 years ago, they had a back-end software, which 23 years ago I remember logging in as a broker. I'm like, I got to get in here and do my reporting or whatever it happened to be. I'm like, wow, this stuff, it looks pretty dated. That was 23 years ago.
I know.
And then I think they have basically the exact same software today. They got to put a prettier face on it, but
it's the same thing. Yeah, they just overlapped it with Lone Wolf, which is a good software package, but instead of rewriting it, they just overlaid it. So it makes it a little more, it made it more complex. Not that made us be angry at anybody. It's just that we saw, I came from a technical background, a corporate background, and I just saw that things were not moving the way the industry moves.
Right.
So my wife and I started talking about maybe we need to plan for the future.
Right.
I had an old boss once I worked for a corporate world said, every Thursday when you get paid, you're even with the company. And you should always look out for yourself and see what's out there.
We start over.
Yeah, and you start over. So we just started looking around, and EXP was, it's a good model.
Yeah. So 2.5 years with EXP.
Right.
Okay. So no regrets. I mean, I'm 2.5 months.
No regrets. It was surprising. My wife's the breadwinner. I mean, I do commercial, and I come from a construction background, and she does all the residential. But I think the first year, as we joined, EXP is so robust with all their tools, it almost inundates you. But they've got so many things to offer, which are really cool.
A lot of stuff.
But the first year, she made Icon, the very first year. So she likes it. She loves it. She's adapted really well to all of that.
Okay, so as the veteran EXP, team lead, you and Kathy, you're right. There is so many tools. I have done a absolutely horrible job introducing and rolling out over the last, again, it's only been, we're less than 3 months in. We're just barely 2 months in. There's just so much stuff. I don't even know where to start. I'm in a sales meeting and I'm like, okay, guys, maybe we should talk about this. We barely had people introduced to like Bold Trail. I mean, we've been talking about Bold Trail and Lofty and Close, and we're still deciding which direction do we go with these guys.
I know.
It's a lot.
But it's interesting that you say that, because as big as RE/MAX was, and they had a good infrastructure, it took a while to get acquainted with all that. The thing I liked about EXP, when we started going, I was stumbling trying to figure out all the detail of rev share and the stock program, all the things that they offer. But Kyle, I've talked to Kyle several times on the phone. I've talked to Dan Beers a couple of times on the phone.
Yep.
They're accessible. That's what makes
Yeah.
That also made it different.
Well, they sure are. We're in their studio. We've got the old double WB behind us.
And
so.
we didn't even have to ask. We just walked in.
We just showed up. Yeah, that is true. We just showed up. So anyway, thank you guys. Speaking of which, we're going to get Kyle and Dan in here, next week, next month, or whatever, and we'll make this a bigger party. But just real quick on the tools, though, it's a fire hose.
Yeah.
I mean, you take a look, and again, Coldwell Banker had a lot of good stuff, a lot of great stuff. Interestingly enough, and this would be a pet peeve of mine, and I'm sure it's a pet peeve, probably sure it's even the same thing within EXP. If you take a look, if they have the ability to measure usage, it sits back and says, okay, this is this wonderful thing that we have.
Right.
And, we have, X% of our agents are using it. And then of that X% that have actually logged on, how many actually are using it? I mean, I would get stats like that from CB previously, and it would just blow my mind. And we had some pretty awesome stuff that nobody used.
Yeah, we did too.
Well, I can imagine, but again, you got awesome stuff. You need awesome stuff. So just totally random. I know we're just shotgunning here. So of the 3 CRMs that I just mentioned, do you have a favorite? Because I haven't picked one yet.
No, it's funny. My wife's using something. I'm going to be afraid to almost say this. I'm an old spreadsheet guy.
Oh my gosh.
And I do that, and I still keep a paper trail of who I talk to and when I talk to. But we were using Buffini for a while, and we still have Buffini, and his CRM is pretty good.
Yep.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Trying to learn all the other things within EXP. I haven't really gotten into the EXP CRM yet because it's just.
I'm a huge CRM guy, and I
am too. I'm just trying to bite it off small bites at a time.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, like with Bull Trail, for example, the 4th time I mentioned it, so obviously I'm leaning towards Bull Trail.
Sure.
I mean, Bull Trail is the old KV Core,
right.
which is so funny because I used to get solicited by that, and for years I thought KV Core was owned by KW. And then somebody said, no, it's a similar name, but no.
Right.
But that's an awesome program.
Yeah.
And that program on its own, I think just with the basic model is like $500 a month,
Right.
So, and you hear I'm turning to my agents and saying, hey, guess what? You got a ridiculously awesome program, which is free, whether it's that one or the other one. But I'm a huge CRM fanatic. Which is tough for me because I use an outside independent one, and we use follow-up bots. You ever do any stuff with Zillow? Any of like Flex stuff or anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not a fan of Zillow.
Yeah. No.
But no.
Okay.
But the EXP stuff is really good. You just have to spend some time doing it. And I think what is happening, what I've seen, is it's a little bit hard. You got to take a bite off and do it. But eventually it gets easy. Yeah. And agents are reluctant. We as humans are all resistant to change.
Right.
But once you take that step and they find out it's so much easier, it's like one of those aha moments.
Right.
Gosh, I should have done this 6 months ago.
Yeah. We had that experience. Again, we're new. We had one of that experience just in the last, what's today, Wednesday, Tuesday? I guess it was late last week. One of our agents was frustrated with something. I don't even remember what it was. After we got the facts, I'm like, well, okay, yeah, you're frustrated, but you might want to redirect some of your frustration inward because you screwed up a little bit. But it was exactly that. It was just some frustration. And then a couple of days later, matter of fact, I wanted him to come to my sales meeting today to sit back and say, I want you to share that experience from how you started off frustrated to how you are today, which is like singing the praises of like, I'm not even sure what you call it. Is it EXP World? Is that the little?
Right. Yeah.
That's that back end thing? I've been in there, but I'm still learning the terminology. But anyway, an end user, one of our agents went in and came out of EXP World converted.
Oh, yeah.
Just awesome experience.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and we actually had that experience outside of EXP World. I don't even remember what the issue. This was last week. We had we're new. Very minor issue. We were onboarding something, and we got a phone call from one of the California brokers, and I think there's 8 of them or 10 of them or a few. And they called and says, hey, let's just do a call. And by the way, I work with both of my sons. I don't know if we talked about that.
Yeah,
so Drew and Drake are my business partners. And I think Drew says, I don't know, we might be in trouble, because they were getting called into the principal's office. But not only did we have one of the brokers, we had 3 other brokers. We're like, oh no, what are we doing? So and I can't remember the names to save my life right now. But so we sat down did an hour-long Zoom, just like you and I are doing right now,
Right.
just talking. And it was like, what can we do to help? We're just, we're here to help you. And they were actually standing in for Deborah. Deborah Penny, I think, was out on vacation or something like that. And these were the other. Deborah's our responsible broker. But I think I've talked to five or six of the 8 awesome people.
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah.
They're all good. And my wife has a law degree, and it was concentration in contracts. So she's really good because she did it just for the real estate part of it.
Right.
And so it's real easy to communicate with all the different kind of brokers. And in fact, we're brokers in California, Texas, and Florida. Oh. And so Texas is very similar, but they have some nuances. But it is so easy with EXP.
Yep.
We've got some land going on in Texas and some in Florida. Within an hour, we had people calling us that were running an organization that had land and ranch.
Wow.
And, and I'm looking to try to get the sports and entertainment going because I've got an affiliation with some ex-college and professional football players.
Nice.
But it's just easy. People call you back and they want to help.
Yeah.
Not that RE/MAX didn't. RE/MAX, again, it's a good company.
Yep.
It's just the tools that EXP has is just more fluid and more robust. I think that's what I'm finding.
Yeah, we were doing a little bit of pregame, and we were kind of talking about, why we made the decision and what are the benefits to the agents and stuff like that. But that multiple state thing, it's so funny because it's not always front of mind, but whenever I stumble on it or whenever I hear somebody who's doing business in how many states? 4?
Three.
So California, Florida, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. But whenever I hear that excites me because one of the things that over the last decade, I've been doing this a long time, so people come and go, and I can honestly say that with the exception of maybe 5, maybe 10 agents that have left my company in the last 20 plus years, everyone left. Well, we're all on good terms. We're all friendly.
Sure.
And some of them, left, went right across the street, and that's hard, but they're good people, and
you get over it.
You get over it. Well, it's hard because we do develop these relationships with agents, and even though it's a business relationship, we're a very social beast in this business. But anyway, with very few exceptions of them, and there's a few that left, on the way door, kicking me in the, whatever.
Sure.
But several of them left out of state, and when they would go out of state, and many of them at that time, they would go to Coldwell Banker. So, they would leave us. Coldwell Banker's great, so they would go to another Coldwell Banker.
Go to a big name.
Yeah, whatever. But that meant they left me.
Right.
So I was like, oh, crap. And I specifically had one, which was so interesting because it really had nothing to do with our decision to go to EXP. That decision was probably baked in years before this story. But I had an agent who, her son is in Oklahoma, was having a baby. She was going to be grandma, and she wanted to spend more time in Oklahoma, but maintain business in California.
Sure.
So she was licensed in Oklahoma, so she went to Coldwell Banker in Oklahoma, and we share the same brand, but if it's independently owned and operated,
it's different.
The word independent is we operate differently, and certainly operate differently than the corporate stores, than the Coldwell Banker Realty stores. So anyway, she went interviewed a couple of different Coldwell Bankers. Nothing bad, but it was like, oh, they just operate so different.
Right.
Lance, I want to stay with you, but you operate differently than they do. And then I don't know if she stumbled onto EXP or not, but then she came back and she started telling me how easy this is.
Yeah, EXP is more ubiquitous as far as that.
Yeah. So she went to EXP and does business in dual states, goes back and forth, one platform, one brokerage, one sky slope, one platform.
Yep.
And I started thinking about that. By the way, it's Darlene Williams is who I'm talking about. Hey, Darlene. And I remember thinking about Darlene and Debbie in Florida and several others. I'm thinking, wow, if we had been an EXP a dozen years ago, or at least 10 years ago, I don't know what the number would be, but it would not be small. It would not be a small number because agents had basically left the area.
Right.
Okay. And it wasn't even so much that they left out of state, but they just left the area. Well, you leave my marketplace and you're going to affiliate with a broker somewhere else. Whereas if they had been with me under an EXP flag, I don't know what the number is. It's probably close to 40 agents that would still be with me.
It's interesting you say that because in the old days, and we're a little older, is agents would stick around offices geographically.
Yep.
And and it was the franchise that was the brand. And I think we talked about it.
We did.
And that's what that tool was. The tools that have now presented themselves gets away from that. And some of the old legacy organizations like Coldwell Banker and RE/MAX and the others, even though they're fine organizations,
They're great companies.
The brands are really the agent and the teams now.
Yep.
And so, like with EXP, when we went, what we did find was it operates the same no matter where you go. Because we have a lot of clients, gosh, just in the last year, we probably had 30, 40 clients that left California physically and says, I'm moving someplace else.
Right.
So they're either moving to Texas and Florida. So we thought, hey, we should get our broker's licenses there,
Yeah.
But it was seamless as far as how you work with agents across there. And it wasn't quite the same under the old legacy, because like you just said, they're independently owned and operated, and you have to kind of learn the rope. There's a big learning curve when you go from state to state. So that's been a blessing as far as that goes.
So you had said something, though, and I'm curious if your experience is similar to mine. Okay, so the brand shifted. Doesn't matter what the company is. Shifted from Coldwell Banker to the Martin Group or the Amaya Group or the Knoll and Associates or whatever. These are all agents within my organization. When did you see that? I'll tell you when I saw it. I probably started to see the individual agent branding take precedent to the actual company brand more than a decade ago.
Yeah, it did, and I saw that too. There was a little bit of resistance because some of the legacy franchises thwarted that a little bit, because you had to keep with the colors and marks, and you had to have the franchise name, bigger letters up front, and then a team name.
Everybody follows those rules.
And then everybody, and then everybody down below smaller. That was another point for EXP. Brand yourself how you want.
Right.
And you can have EXP as a small little brand on the back as long as it's there, but you can have the, Lance Martin brand or the Mike Jesse brand. We like that.
Which is what agents have been doing for at least a decade.
Right.
And I don't know where, I just it developed because it's smart,
Right.
It's smart. At the end of the day, people list with you because of the relationship with you. But man, I got to tell you, I can't believe how many battles I would get in with my agents. You mentioned identity standards and, hey, you got to use the right colors and all the rest of that. And I had, one agent in particular, Chris, who, we're a Coldwell Banker, and Chris says, I don't like blue and white. I like yellow and black. And I'm Lipa Realty Group. Yeah. And I'm Lipa Realty Group. I don't care about anything else. And it's hard to argue with that because, yes, that's who you are. That is your brand, which is another reason for us internally is why we again, nothing bad to say with CB, but that's another reason we left is because we found it more difficult to get our agents to see value in that when all I got to do is look at their signs in their yard.
Yeah, it was more corporate centric or franchise centric than it is user.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I think it was Drew or Drake. One of my sons was talking to their neighbor. I think it was Drew. And we're like, hey, we're making this move. We're going to leave. Like, oh my gosh, you're leaving Coldwell Banker. And I'm like, yeah. Where are you going? We're going to go to EXP. And I never heard of him. And we're like, okay, I'll tell you what. And I've done this now dozens of times.
Wow.
I said, this is what I want you to do. Next time you're out and about, by the way, this doesn't work as well as it used to, but next time you're out and about driving through neighborhoods, I want you to look at the yard signs. Look at the for sale signs in the yard. And isn't it crazy how we used to have so many, inventory's down, but anyway, It just seems like we used to have so many more yard signs out. But anyway, go look at the yard signs and really focus. What does it say? Okay? And I think what you're going to find is you're going to find a lot more EXP signs in the yard than you actually think.
Right.
Having said that, it's not prominent. It's going to basically be a picture of Sally, dressed up with her, headshot or whatever it happens to be with, the Sally Group, brokered by EXP or whatever. Or it's going to be the Sally Group with a Coldwell Banker logo or a KW logo, whatever it happens to be. Because the agent branding has taken over.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think Drew, I might get the story wrong, but I think he basically challenged his neighbor to do that. Ran into him in the driveway 3 or 4 days later. Oh my God, you're right. Now it's like everywhere I go. Now I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize I was in front of an EXP sign because the branding was so prominent with the agent.
Right.
So,
and it all starts with personal relationships, as we all know.
Yep.
You don't go down the street and see a RE/MAX sign or Coldwell Banker or any other sign and call because you don't know who it is. The biggest purchase you're going to make in your life for most people, you want to do that with someone that you know or been referred to, and that goes right back to the agent and their brand.
Right. So, so back to the 2.5 years. So, again, I'm 2.5 months. You're 2.5 years, which is still, you're still kind of
same.
new. But you're still kind of new. So, is it everything you expected, or just from a standpoint of that transition? Because for me, it is. So far, I'm waiting for some bomb to go off around me.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like I'm, rah rah sis boom bah and trying to tell people, paint a bad picture. But in all honesty, we kind of hit the ground running, and I alluded to the fact that my wife in the very first few months in the first year made Icon, which is a nice achievement within EXP. So it was very fluid. It was a fluid change.
Right.
And so we liked that.
Yeah.
And when we came to RE/MAX 25 years ago, of course, that was back in the old days, it was more difficult to catch on and learn things.
Yeah.
Because you had to physically get on a plane, go to Denver, and go through the classes.
Oh, right.
And that's, they don't do that anymore. So.
Yeah. Well, those things have definitely changed. Yeah. With CB, we fly back to Parsippany, New Jersey, and do all that. I will tell you, though, it's interesting. As part of, and again, I probably said it 3 times on this podcast, but nothing bad to say about Coldwell Banker. Because before CB, I worked with my dad. I don't even know if we got that far into our conversation.
You had mentioned it, yeah.
I worked with my mom and my dad. We were independent. Pioneer real estate, 20 agents, did fine. But I wanted more. I wanted more agents and more locations and to expand, young kid. And my dad was like, okay, that's fine. When I'm retired, if that's what you want to do, go for it. And he fought me. I wanted to do it sooner. But when he retired, that's exactly what I did. I went immediately to CB because I had done so much research. To me, that was where I wanted to be. It was awesome.
Good company.
So, great company. But honestly, the ramp up was easy. I was younger and excited, and we did exactly what I wanted. We basically went from 20 agents at our peak. We had 300 and some odd agents, 7 offices, and recruiting was awesome. Recruiting to the brand. Certainly wasn't able to. I don't think I was capable of recruiting 300 agents under an independent Pioneer real estate. I just don't think we would have been as successful. But anyway, that worked until it didn't.
Right.
Okay. So we
Did you find that's because the model was starting to no longer viable?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And at our peak, I guess we had 7 offices, which in truth it was really 5 because we bought one and merged it in immediately and what have you, and over 300 agents. But then it became abundantly clear that it was harder to recruit, it was harder to retain, and a lot of it was just the overlay. It was just it's expensive. If you're going to have a brand on the wall, then somebody's got to pay for the brand on the wall. So then again, part of it's market conditions. Let's face it, we're in some difficult market. It's a brutal market right now.
Yep.
Brutal. But we just found it more difficult to recruit and retain. I'm losing my best agents. I'm losing my best agents. And as we're hugging and crying out the door, telling them, "Oh my God, dude, I love you, man, and you're awesome." And I know we've had great vacations together and all the rest of that. But I'm going over here, and at the end of the day, it was 2%, 5%, 8%, whatever the number was as far as compensation was concerned.
So it was negligible.
But it was enough. It was enough. But I rarely would lose an agent to a legacy brand. I was losing an agent to the new model. I was losing agents to an EXP or an EXP-like or something similar but different without that overlay.
Yeah, we did the same thing. Some went to some legacy brands temporarily and then said, "Well, wait, this is the same thing," and then they'd end up at a boutique or someplace else.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because part of the broken model, I've had some that have left to legacy brands, and we'll be careful in how we approach this, but they were offered the world. It was like, hey, you can come over here and, here's a desk and here's 2 desks and here's an office and here's another office and coffee machine's free. Oh, by the way, you're on 100% split and there's no fees and we're going to waive everything for 12 months and we're going to treat you like a king or a queen. And it's like, wow, this is awesome. Look, I got 2 offices and I basically don't have to pay anything for it. And then 12 months would go by, right? And then it'd be like, hey, Mike, it's time to talk. Now we got to make a little bit of money.
Right.
And that agent would say, well, no, you don't. And bolt.
Yeah.
Which is just another reason I'm more convinced that the models are so broken. Which, by the way, if you're an agent and you can pull that off as an agent, more power to you.
Good for you.
Good on you.
Yeah.
But where we sit, at least where we used to sit, on the broker owner side, it was like, oh my gosh, can I just give me some crumbs?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a reason why they call them brokers.
Yes, that is a fact.
But we had the same thing. I mean, the thing that was so comical, and because a lot of the agents we had were friends because we met through personal experiences, meet them at opens, but I'd have a handful of agents that are, doing 2 deals a year, but they want a 99% split.
Right.
And so I'd say, well, how does that work? Can you write that down?
Works awesome for them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they can't put it down at, give me some numbers and show me how that works. They can't, but it sure sounds good.
Well, yeah, it sounds good. And the reason and depending upon who they are, I had those agents. I had agents that I was renting office space for outside of my own office space.
Yeah.
And on 100% split and subsidizing franchise fees. Because they were, the dirty little secret in our business is our business on the broker owner side is supported by ancillary services.
Right.
Hey, please throw me an escrow every now and then. Hey, please.
It's, people want to deny it, but escrow makes money for the franchise.
It does.
It makes good money.
It does. Yeah.
But I will say, and maybe we'll cut this out of this, but I will say, since we moved to EXP, since we were owners, we did not compete with the office because we didn't think that was fair, but we participated and had our own customer base.
Okay.
And my wife, Kathy, she was on a 98% split because you got to give some money back to the mother company,
right.
But since we've gone to EXP with the compensation and the revenue share and things you get, she's right now tracking, we just did it last week, she's tracking at 111%. Oh. So people say, well, how do you get 111?
How do you get 111?
How do you get over 111? Yeah. Well, because 20% initially before you cap comes back to the company. They split that. Part of those profits go back to the agents in revenue share, and then you get stock. So it's not just about commission, and that's been not the hardest part, but I think agents need to realize it's not, when you sit down and think about it, it's not the commission that you make, it's the compensation that you make.
Yeah, it's interesting. That might be the little nugget for me personally in today's session. Because I've never heard it put that way as far as if I'm an agent within the EXP world, and obviously I've got to reach my cap and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But with the rev share and with the stock and those little extras coming back, I now go from a split here to in excess, in Kathy's case, 111%.
Yeah, and you can immediately, once you hit that cap, you can go right to 100%. And there's some criteria you have to do, but it's easy. You have to give back to the EXP by going to some seminars or gatherings, and then you get that back. So you end up getting your 20% back, and it's really easy to get it back.
Right.
But then with the revenue share, and then we have some relationships with some escrow companies where there's not compensation, but they share in that revenue.
Yeah.
Like EXP does. So it's easy to get over that. Yeah. But you have to work hard. I mean, agents don't just...
Well, God forbid.
Come in and sit down and have coffee.
You mean we have to go to work still?
Yeah.
I just thought it was just...
It's not the wash machine guy where you sit in the office and you wait for someone to come in and say, sell my house, please.
Yeah, those days are gone. Yeah. I had a few of those, but it's been a while. I used to say a guy came into the office, tripped over the carpet and signed a listing agreement on his way down to the floor. Those days, I don't ever know that I ever experienced.
In all the years, I've only had it happen once. We were in our office in Dana Point. It was in a really nice location by the beach. We had a car show, and I have an old car, and I had it right in front as a participant in the car show. Didn't win, unfortunately, but it was sitting there, and somebody came in and liked the car, looked at it, we started talking, and we did a deal, listed his house, and then found him another house on the other end.
Beautiful thing.
Happens once in a blue moon, but...
Yeah, but that's not by accident. I mean, that's our relationship. We sat down out of chance when we were in Charleston, chatted with you and Kathy, and then, we took a break and ended up at the shrimp boil or whatever the heck we were. And just,
whatever that was.
Kind of just, gravitated to each other again. And now here we are a couple months later. And I don't know where we're going to go with this. I can see us doing many, many series of this and different topics and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But but at the end of the day, we're going to do business together. That's how it works.
And at my age, and I'm probably older than you.
Of course you are.
By a lot.
How dare you?
My first year in college was 1970, so that tells you everything you need to know. But it's just a matter of at this point in my life, it's kind of educating and helping other people. Some of these young agents that are coming in and agents at other places, it's not like we're just trying to bring people in and fill up seats in an office. You really want to help people. And I'd like to, and I think you share the same thought. You want to help people to get into that business and help them succeed. And I like it the way, EXP puts it, and other companies do too. But, when the company's successful, all the ships rise. Everybody benefits. You benefit more a little bit with EXP than you do a normal legacy franchise, because when they get more successful, some of those profits come back to the agents as revenue share.
Yep.
That doesn't happen in the other legacy
It's interesting what you say. You made me think when we were sitting in the studio, configured a little bit differently a few months ago with Dan Beer. And I don't know if he said it during our little podcast or he might have texted me about it later, but he must have seen something in me. And I think he texted me. He says, "It's the first time in a long time you're having fun." There
you go.
And it really hit me because I love this business, and we do a lot of property management, and property management is an awesome source of revenue for us. It's kept my doors alive and open for decades. But I just have this passion on the real estate side. I enjoy real estate, and I enjoy helping agents in real estate, and I enjoy the operations of real estate, and that whole thing. So over the last decade, as I'm complaining about, oh my gosh, this business is
killing
broken.
me.
It's killing me, right? But then part of me is like, yeah, it's killing you, but you actually do enjoy helping the agents and helping the buyers and the sellers.
Absolutely.
But when you're frankly hemorrhaging cash on a monthly basis, I mean, we did well, but when the markets are challenging, but it's like, wow, it's a lot less fun. So as we kind of shed some of that other responsibility and go into this new model, and Dan must have, I don't know, maybe something I said or maybe a sparkle in my eye, I don't know. He's like, hey, I can see that you're enjoying this. And you made me just think of it because you enjoy helping the agents and all the rest of that sort of stuff. I had an agent this morning, Ivan, one of my agents in my sales meeting this morning, we were talking about how much time we spend, and actually it was Greg, and how much time we spend. I got clients calling me at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, okay, well, I probably could do a little bit better, use of my time, and control my time. Why am I picking up the phone at 11 o'clock at night when?
Yeah, it's that little button on the side.
That snooze button. Yeah. But I think it was Greg. He says, yeah, but you really enjoy this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I guess I must, because I don't have to pick up the phone. This is not a regular occurrence, but it is different. It is different with this new relationship within AXP. I think we have so much to learn yet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been a fun ride so far.
And the fun part is, even if you're there for a long period of time, I don't think the thing that I think is happening, because technology is moving at an exponential rate, it'll never be not fun.
Right.
Because something new is coming down the pike. And that got back to our original conversation of some of the old big legacies. Great companies, RE/MAX, Coldwell Banker, the machine itself, it was too hard to pivot for that, like any big corporation, and that's what was the advantage of some of these new cloud-based is.
Are you and Kathy doing anything with this new AI kind of trend?
Yep.
Are you?
Yep.
Are you excited about it?
Yeah. We just, matter of fact, we flew to Phoenix for the day just to go to a seminar on AI and some of the things that it can do, and it astounded me. Yeah. It's almost scary.
It's scary awesome.
Yeah, and they tell you, be careful. They tell you, put it on a separate PC because AI gets too smart.
Yeah,
and it accidentally makes mistakes. Because it's trying to be helpful.
I mean, I'm just a babe in the woods when it comes to it yet. So I have so much to learn.
We are too.
A few of agents in our office for probably 9-10 months have been like, okay, we gotta start paying attention here, and we're gonna get run over.
Right.
And we were subscribing. I'm still subscribing. Jason Pantana, he has got, I don't know what the relationship is with Tom Ferry exactly, but he's got an AI Academy. It's $100 a month or $200 a month.
Right.
So we started getting into his stuff, and it's really good. But we're like, oh my gosh, okay, when I'm creating an avatar and I'm creating a voice clone and I'm trying to do this stuff, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but it's like, I don't know if this is working for me.
Well, you can get it. I call it, in the old days when I was with the corporation, it's the paralysis of analysis.
Yeah.
You can start taking on too many things, and so you take one small bite at a time. We're not using that portion of it.
Well, we're not either,
but
really.
we're using it to write script
Yeah.
and to follow up and do emails
Yep.
and things that just take your time.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
So we spent months doing what I was just describing, and then I don't know when Claude came out of nowhere. At least it came out
Right.
of nowhere for me, and Jason Pantana and others were like, "Okay, get out of your Chat GPT," and everybody's got to run over to Claude. I'm like, "Really? I just got Chat kind of semi figured out. I don't know what to do.
I got
with
it trained, yeah.
But I tell you, man, and frankly, and part of it had to do with when we were in Charleston.
Yeah.
And
too.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. And that was a month ago.
Right.
But man, I mean, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but man, we are like all in. And some of the stuff that Claude is doing, which by the way, right now for us, we've kind of said, we were creating like avatars and stuff but I'm like, I don't need an avatar. I don't have a problem getting in front of a camera. I can do that. A lot of agents struggle with that. So they're going to create some, cartoon or whatever.
The old ugly ones like me.
Yeah. Well, no, but we're doing just fine here. But man, what we've been able to do with Claude just in the last month, and we don't even know what we're doing yet. But I mean, just from some of the things that I'm seeing.
And it'll start to help you figure out what you're doing.
It's pretty incredible. And I genuinely believe that it's a seismic change within our industry. And there's going to be agents who use it, and then everybody else.
It's like going from the horse to the automobile.
Yeah. But I'm excited about that too.
Yeah.
I'm like genuinely like, oh wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, it just there's downsides to everything in the world, but the upside to using that as a tool to make your time more efficient, to do we're looking at it just to do other things, all the things it can do for you, so you can go out and do other things.
Yeah, without getting into the sticks and weeds and stuff. Last night I was working on this project, and it takes me 2 to 4 hours a month to do this. This is a repetitive thing. I do it every single month, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, let's try this. So I spent an hour playing around with Claude. I'm pretty sure next month it's going to my 2 to 4 hour time investment is going to drop to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's going to do all the rest. So
Yeah.
crazy
Very cool.
stuff. Crazy stuff. So let's talk about the agents a little bit. So we had 150 agents when we left Coldwell Banker. We still have about 100 of them out in the wind. We've onboarded 50, which implies that did you lose 100? No, maybe, but no. So we're in this state of realization.
right.
Realizing something that we've known for a very, very long time, but now we're really, truly realizing it, is who's actually doing business. So, it wasn't that long ago, with Coldwell Banker, they broke everything into quartiles. My business consultant would come in, and your top quartile is your top producing agents, and your second quartile is kind of that group that's trying to be top producing agent, and that third quartile is the folks that are just, man, with a little bit of help, maybe they'll go up the chain, and then the fourth quartile is just people that just they just have a business license, or they have a real estate license, but they just never do anything. So with CB anyway, and I don't know if I've ever talked about this on video, could potentially be a little hurtful to some of my agents, but with Coldwell Banker, like, hey man, that bottom quartile, and they got to be constantly recycled. You just got to get rid of that bottom quartile, and I never did that because they were my friends.
We did that a little bit, but what we tried to do is educate them and gave them help. We said, look, you might be better off going to this other franchise that we had already picked out, and says, you'll do desk time there. They'll send you through some training classes. Start there. See how that goes. If you want to be in this business, you want to come back because you like RE/MAX from the beginning, come on back. So sometimes that bottom list, sometimes that's the best help you can give somebody.
Yeah, of course. But did it work on a percentage basis? How many of those people did that and actually came back and were successful?
Maybe 10, 20%. But
Okay,
you figure
that's a bigger number than I would have
But if
expected.
you're going to leave, if 10 of them are going to leave and you only get back 1 or 2, well, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it was okay.
Yeah,
But it's that thing where you help somebody. And down the road, it may come back to pay you through referral business. Maybe they'll say, hey, you're doing some business in an area, I'm not there. How about a referral?
Right.
So that's the way we look at it, is we get referrals.
So, well, it's funny because I still call them like my agents. I guess I got to stop doing that. So I guess now they're my teammates. So, because we maintain our, by the way, how many brick and mortar offices do you maintain? Do you have one or zero?
None
or?
now. None now. We had one in Dana Point, one in the High Desert, and then when we merged with another Remax office, there was 5 total, and those have slimmed down a bit also.
Yeah.
The one in Dana Point just is getting ready to fold, not by us, but because we've been gone for a couple of years.
Right.
But it's just really, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Utilities and things. And the agents don't see that, nor should they, because they're an agent. But
Right.
it ultimately affects them. Because if the owners and the brokers have to pay more for rent and more for utilities, they have less money that they can either put into the system to help their agents.
That's correct.
Or give them some kind of increased commission.
Yep.
And so I always tried to educate them. It's hard because agents say, well, I can go down the street and get 90-10.
Yeah.
You can, but are they giving you an IT fee and a legal fee and all this other stuff?
Yeah,
And
but again, that's part of the model's changed.
I know.
I mean, everything's changed. I mean, we'd have
Now you can have all the benefits of ownership and not have any ownership at all.
I've told this story on camera before. I don't know. We might have talked about it a little bit. My mom and dad were in the business.
Right.
My grandmother was in the business, and my grandmother was just a badass broker in the 50s. I mean, just awesome and active. She had her broker's license till the day she passed. But I would see her quite a lot. I mean, I'd see her on Mother's Day and Christmas, and we go over there, for dinner or whatever. And at least 3-4 times a year, she would chat and she'd, okay, tell me all about how's it going? How's business going? Because she was an active broker.
Sure,
she ran
was
the
interested.
office. And she, how much are you paying your agents? I remember way back, I'm like, I'd hire a new agent. I said, Grandma, we hire a new agent at 60-40. This is 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
And she'd be like, 60-40?
That's way too much.
You're going to go broke. You would know no more than 50-50. And I'm like, Grandma, I can't compete with that. And then where the story's going. Then 5 years later, I'm like, geez, Grandma, now it's 65-35. And then 5 years later, now, geez, brand new agent, 70-30. And Grandma, geez, my gosh, now I'm paying never sold a house. Brad just got their license, 80-20. And every single time she'd lose her mind. And then, I mean, today, you have brand new agents that will walk in, at least previously, come into Coldwell Banker and say, hey, what can you do for me? And I'm like, and I just know right off I'm already on edge. I'm already on my heels.
They're waiting for the 90-10.
Well, yeah, because they already got that offer across the street.
Right.
They never sold a house.
Right.
And so in part, our industry we've done this to ourselves, in part because what we talked about earlier, because most of the broker owners are not in the real estate business. They're in the ancillary service business.
Right.
So it's like, I don't care. Sure, come on over here. I'll give you 10%, or I'll give you 95.5. I'll give you whatever I'm going to give you. Support my escrow. All right. Support my lending. So, which would be interesting to see from an antitrust standpoint. At what point does that shoe drop? I mean, it just.
Yeah, there's some strict rules about having it appear as if you're requiring it to use your services, which you can't do.
Of course you can't. Yeah. But we all know what happens behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of that stuff. Speaking of antitrust, I can't believe, God, we're going to talk about antitrust. Okay, we talked earlier a little bit. Okay, old Coldwell Banker guy. Obviously, we've had some experience with Compass and Robert Refkin. So we've got all these mergers going on. Okay, so Compass basically gobbles up Anywhere brands, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's. ERA, missing one, and Behemoth. Got nothing but mad respect for Robert Refkin for basically taking what was a otherwise
smart guy,
successful company and making it even larger. But man, this whole stuff that's going on with the private listings and off-market stuff and all this war that's in public right now, I am not a fan of any of it.
No, and I think ultimately it gets people excited because it gives them the false sense of security that they have these listings. But I equate it to what Harcourts did. Remember when Harcourts bought up all the properties and gave the properties just to their agents? Well, it seemed really great until it all ran out.
Yep.
And then everybody scrambled to try to get business.
Yep.
And nothing against Harcourts. It's just that was their model.
Right.
And I don't think that's a sustainable feature. And the fact that corporation now they've got all these systems they have to overlay because they all operated differently. It costs money to do that.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately the agents kind of get left behind temporarily.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just don't see how this plays out well. I just don't. I mean, matter of fact, I'm surprised it's been playing out as long as it has without
Same thing with Remax and Real.
Yeah.
I mean, Remax, their stock price went way low, and they were struggling. They needed to do something.
Yeah.
And so Real helps put them into the non-typical brick and mortar operation and gets them into the cloud a bit. But they're supporting both, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, I wonder what the next shoe to fall is. There's got to be another victim out there waiting.
I think there's going to be. Remember back in the day when stadiums were owned by other people? Now corporations own all the stadiums, football stadiums, and KW. They're still KW, but they got a big influx. Was it Stone Point Capital or something?
Equity company or whatever.
And I think that's going to more and more is going to happen, to have good corporations take it over, and then it's going to just get very corporate centric, I think. And I don't know if that's good for the agent, because the agent, like we said before, is the brand. The agent has to be out front, not the brand out front.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about EXP. You can have your own brand,
Yeah.
and your brand is out front, and they support you. I like that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Do you have a relationship with Leo?
I've talked to him a couple of times, once in person and a couple of times on the phone.
Yeah.
Interesting
dude.
Yeah, I like him.
I genuinely love him. It was just total coincidence. Well, I guess it was a coincidence. I don't know. I met him before he was with EXP, and he was out slinging Remine, that data company, which I think is still out there doing stuff. And I mean, my memory may be a little bit off, but I think he called me and said, "Hey, I've got this software program," and I remember seeing it because it was on the dashboard for CRMLS, and he said, "I want to come into your office and pitch your agents." And if it wasn't him who called me, it was one of his associates that called me, and I said, "Oh, sure, whatever." So he comes into my Covina office. This is 10 years ago, maybe longer, 12 years ago, and it's Leo. He comes in, and I think I had 50 agents in my sales meeting. And he gets, well, that product was awesome, by the way, that Remind Pro. I don't know whether it's still available. There's something different out there, but it was a great product. And so I'm a sales guy. So we exchange numbers, and I keep in touch. And I think he subsequently, sold Remind or something, went a different direction. And then when he, do you know how long he's been with EXP now? It's less than 7 years, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well, at any rate, so I meet with Kyle, thinking about making this decision to come to EXP it was almost 8 years ago now, because that was my decision was made 8 years ago. I've been leaving for 8 years, at least 7 years.
Wow.
Now
you knew it was headed toward EXP, or you were just leaving?
No, I didn't. Actually, it's funny. I'm very upset with Kyle. He's a horrible salesperson. Okay? I met with Kyle. I'm kidding. But I met with Kyle like within a week or two after he left as, Whistle team or Whistle group or whatever he was as an independent, because I was thinking about maybe going back and doing that.
Right. And
then he left and went to EXP, and I immediately called him. I'm like, explain to me, so we went and had lunch in Anaheim at a Tom Ferry event. Our breakfast. And he told me what he was doing, and my gears were spinning.
Sure.
And they were grinding, but I wasn't there, but I was just like, man. But that breakfast meeting, in hindsight, was the meeting where I knew I needed to get out of what I currently was doing. I didn't know if it was EXP. I wish at that time Kyle would have grabbed me by the lapels and drug me in, and we would have done a deal back then.
Yeah, just do it, and you can always.
But at any rate, I wasn't convinced. But literally, as every day after that was be more and more. And then getting back to the Leo story, I think Leo, a couple years thereafter, came on as whatever his initial position was with EXP. And I remember talking to him, and then I started talking to him a lot.
Right.
And then Kyle and Leo and Kyle and Leo, and then Brent Gove and a few other people. And so I was just slowly crawling my way to EXP. Part of it had to do with I had franchise agreements. I was in, and I had to honor, and all the rest of that.
Yeah, and EXP's been really good about making sure that they don't, they tell you right up front if you're talking to some offices, just make sure that you don't step over anything. Yeah. Because we're all here, we're all in the same business.
Yep. Oh, that's for sure. And they were always legit. It's funny you say that. I met Leo in Las Vegas at a Zillow Flex event or something like that. I don't know what I was. It might have been Inman. I think it was Inman. And we were chatting, and I think Leo thought my franchise was done. And we start chatting. I'm like, I got another 2 years. He's like, you got another 2 years? Time out, dude. talk to me later. And I'm like, we're just talking, dude.
Right.
But anyway, it's been an awesome experience. And I'm really fortunate with the relationship that I've developed with Kyle and Dan. And I've gotten to know Leo really well over the last few years. So it just makes, and by the way, the staff and the brokers have just been awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Everybody's been really good and helpful.
Are you doing anything? Are you going to Paris to the international event?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh,
we're going.
well, guess what? We'll have cocktails.
There you go.
It's funny. I up until a month ago, I'd never been to Paris.
I've never been. I've always wanted to go to Normandy to go to this national cemetery.
Okay.
There
Well,
and stuff,
not that I want to squat on your vacation, but we'll at least have a glass of wine while we're there.
Get on that 200-mile-an-hour train and head up there.
I just did it. I just did the train from London to Paris. I said a month ago. It was 2 weeks ago, and first time in Paris. Yeah, it was 180 miles an hour.
Yeah.
How come we can't build a 180-mile-an-hour train?
We can. I mean, we got cars that do that you buy off the showroom floor.
I guess. I don't know. Train didn't look all that special to me, but at any rate, so you're going. So is that, do you go to all the international events, or is this your first
will be
one?
our first one because we haven't been here that long. We didn't go to the one when we first came on board, but Kathy, my wife, wanted to go to this one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But we've been trying to go to as many as we can because you just meet so many great people.
Well, that's why, yeah.
And we got turned on to the land and ranch stuff because of our Texas brokerage, and have gotten referrals through just meeting people at these other events. So it's just been a great networking environment.
Yeah. Well,
more so than any other I've seen.
Well, we're salespeople.
Yeah.
God forbid,
But the EXP doesn't let the company get in the way. When you go to, again, not dissing anybody, but the big legacy franchises, it's hard to do that because you're following their program when you go somewhere.
Right.
We'd go twice a year to an event for our franchise when we were with RE/MAX, and you follow their format, and it's okay, but you don't have as much networking and doing business time with other agents.
Right.
EXP's been really good about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an awesome experience.
Yep.
Okay, Mike. Well, this is the deal. We don't have to cram it all into one show.
I'd like to we should do more of these and
we got to
take on different subjects.
We need a name. So we got to figure out what
we should have a contest.
Yes, we're gonna solicit our audience participation.
Put in the name of the team that you want, and whoever wins, Lance writes them a check for $100.
No, they got to sponsor us. Yeah, we got to figure that out. So at any rate, we're not exactly sure where we're going to go with this, but other than the fact that this is not one and done.
Right.
So I don't know whether we're going to do once a month or twice a month or.
Yeah, and the big thing, I think we might have hit on it privately, but it's not like we're just trying to drag people over to fill up seats in an office. But I think as more people learn about how the technology is going and how the environment, the real estate industry, like we've said, is changing exponentially.
Dramatically.
And the franchise brick-and-mortar operations, as much as we'd like to see them, they're just not going to be survivable as much.
Yeah.
So the more education you give people, they can make good decisions. Love to have people come and talk to us about EXP. I'm biased, obviously, because we vetted all the ones that we wanted to do, and we chose that one.
Yep.
So, but love to share with people and educate people.
Well, and Brian, our videographer, before we sat down, could say, well, who's the target audience? And I always struggle with that because we have a lot of, well, are we talking to agents? Are we talking to other brokers? Or are we talking to buyers and sellers? Who's our audience today? But I think in part what we'd like to do is basically tell our story. If it resonates with other, legacy brand broker owners that says, hey, we have some commonality.
Give us a call.
Can sit down. Yeah, let's talk and chat. And the same thing from an agent's perspective. There's just so much opportunity. So I think that's what we're trying to create here.
Yeah.
So,
and one of the things we like to do, I'm sure you do too, is not so much if somebody's interested to talk on the phone, let's meet somewhere. Well, I'll come to you. We'll come to you. Yeah. Have a cup of coffee at a Starbucks. Come and sit down and just have a chat, no high pressure. Have a chat about what it is and see if there's any kind of connection.
Yeah, see if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, it took me 7 years. Yeah. 7 years to get here. And
you're slow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then there's that. Then there's definitely. You're not the first person to tell me that. Thanks, Mike.
I'm older, so I have to be faster at doing it. Time's running out.
But again, it was slow. It was a slow and painful. It was a hard decision. It's a hard decision to uproot your entire whether you're an agent or whether you're a broker.
Yeah. I know. Well, not to pat you on the back, but you spent way more years at it than I did as a franchise owner and built your office much larger than what we did. So it's a hard nut to get away from that.
Well, it is, and there's a certain amount of pride
And once
to
you
it.
do, it's the right. Once you do, you know it was the right decision.
Yeah, but there is a certain amount. And I don't know if I want to admit it, but it's true. You become personally invested in it.
Sure.
And to abandon that is almost to admit failure.
Yeah. Feel guilty.
Well, I don't know if I felt guilty, but you're just so committed to it. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a Gary Keller quote that it's attributed to Gary Keller anyway, and I think the context fits. And it was basically, the quote is something to the effect that we're losing money so slow, or we're going broke. Oh, we're losing money. How does it go? We're losing so slowly, we think we're winning. That's the quote.
I had a guy tell me at a corporation I worked at, I was in the sales department, he says, it was a big staff meeting, he goes, we're losing money on every transaction we do, but we're going to make it up in volume.
Correct.
Well,
That's a Walmart thing.
How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I would have that conversation that we're losing so slowly we think we're winning. To me, it would just resonate with conversation I would have with my wife or my friends or family, and we'd wind up at the years. How was the year? Like, it kind of sucked.
Yeah.
It was a tough year. But next year's going to be better.
That's right.
And then you do it again, and maybe next year was better.
Sure.
But then you have enough of those where it's like it just got to the point where it's like, okay, decisions need to be made. So here we are. So,
and if you got enough people to lean on, and that's why the other thing I liked about EXP, there's enough people in the environment to lean on that when things get tough,
right.
Sometimes they're not as tough in other areas. So you start glomming onto what people do. What are you doing to keep that business? And everybody shares, and it's great.
Right.
That's what we found.
Right. Well, there you go. That'll be a good way for us to end it. This will be a good place for us to share.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Thank
we're
you,
going to play.
everybody.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. The first one's in the books. So stay tuned and watch for episode 2.
Two.
All right.